Peace, my brothers and sisters. Today's topic, to know thyself. What does it mean to know yourself, and where does one start their journey of self-discovery and self-realization? You know, nowadays you hear a lot about self-development and self-improvement, right? The process of becoming a better version of yourself by, developing your capabilities, improving your character, and enhancing the quality of your life by enhancing yourself. And this is essential, but there's a difference between self-development and self-discovery, self-improvement and self-realization. You see, one can develop themselves and improve who they are without truly getting to know themselves authentically and realizing one's own purpose and destiny. Now let me explain. You see, there's this theory in psychology that believes the desires most of us have aren't even our own desires. They're desires based on what other people have and who other people are. And so we chase this image of who we think we should be and what we think we should do and what we think we should have in comparison to who another person is, or in comparison to what another person does, or in comparison to what another person has. And so we work on developing and improving ourselves based on an image of someone that we've been influenced by. We see someone who is prestigious, right, and affluent, and say, I'm trying to be like him or her, right? And so we compare ourselves, our lives, to this individual that we believe is successful, right, and has what we believe will make us happy and fulfilled according to society standards. And this is a constant theme in our generation. The age of the influencer has many of us trying to be like someone else rather than being ourselves and doing what's authentic to us. But of course, I do believe that looking up to someone can have a positive influence for some of us, right? It can show us that there's more to life, that there's more possibility for us than what we can currently see based on what we're used to. When our standards for the quality of our lives are low, it can be somewhat motivating to see someone else and say to ourselves, I aspire to be like him or her. Just speaking from experience, my journey of self-development began just 5 years ago when I made the decision to quit my 9-to-5 and pursue entrepreneurship. I was motivated and heavily influenced by the people who I saw on social media making money from their laptops, from their phone, and witnessing that possibility, it definitely expanded and shifted my mindset, because what I thought was possible for myself really opened when I saw a friend of mine make $1,000 trading crypto from his phone. And I remember my initial reaction. I was so shocked. I was like, whoa, I'm trying to be like that. And I got pulled into this reality of watching what other people were doing and what other people had. And I was telling myself, I'm trying to be like this and I'm trying to be like that. I'm trying to be like them. And it was a bit helpful for me because it gave me a higher aim for myself than I had before, right? I had to develop new skills and improve myself because who I was didn't align with this new reality I wanted to create that was based on what I saw outside of myself. But it wasn't until 2020 when the concept of know thyself and knowledge of self really hit me, and my journey of self-discovery and self-realization started. You see, 3 years ago, I took a trip to the UK for reasons that are irrelevant to this conversation right now. And during my time there, I had a very profound experience that changed my life. I was living in London for a few months from about February 2020 to May 2020, which, as you all know, was during the time the COVID pandemic hit. And in the midst of this strange time when the world was panicking, right? Everything was being put on lockdown and no one knew what was going on. I had two options, right? Either fly back to New York or stay in London by myself because I flew out there solo and didn't know anyone who lived out there. But despite my family urging me to come back, I made the decision to stay. Because like many of us, I thought things would just return to normal within a few weeks. And I would be able to continue the mission I set out while I was there. But days turned into weeks, and eventually months passed without any signs of getting better. And I know y'all remember what this was like. And so I told myself, if things out there weren't going to improve, I'm gonna take this time of solitude to focus on improving myself. And so a best friend of mine recommended I experiment with LSD to really tap in with myself while I was out there. And I thought it would be a good idea, because I had done it before with him. And each time we tripped, I received what we call downloads, which are like deep insights into myself and reality. So I had him send me a tab of LSD in the mail all the way from Los Angeles where he lived. And to my surprise, one morning I woke up with an envelope slipped underneath the door of my Airbnb, and it was the tab of LSD. Now for those who aren't familiar with LSD, it's basically like this small paper or gel square that's been coated with acid, which is this powerful psychedelic drug. And when you take this drug, it distorts your perception of reality. Some people start to hallucinate, others tap into different realms of reality, and some realize, who they are beyond the limited aspect of our materialistic personality. And I just want to make it clear, this is by no means a message trying to influence you to do LSD or any drug. This is just a story of my personal experience that led me to question and seek and realize a higher version of myself based on knowledge of self. And what I discovered was my truth and my ideal version of myself, and the reality I wanted to create, not based on anything I saw outside of myself, but what was authentic to me. And so long story short, I walked away from that LSD experience feeling intensely connected to God and realizing another layer of myself that I really never felt before. It was beyond just mental and physical, it was spiritual. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and asking myself, who am I? With this sense that there was more to me than I thought was true based on my level of thinking, based on my emotions and what I grew up to believe in, what I learned from my journey of self-development. This question of who am I led me to discover the phrase, know thyself, and the concept of knowledge of self. And in brief words, the phrase know thyself was originated from an ancient Greek philosopher named Socrates, who said to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, and that all of philosophy can be summed up by man's search to know thyself, to understand oneself, because as Socrates put it, knowledge begins in self-discovery. And that led me to think, if knowledge is power, then knowledge of self is self-empowerment. And so over the past 3 years, I shifted my focus from just self-development and self-improvement to self-discovery and self-realization. To discover myself more deeply and to realize my purpose. I really like what this German Enlightenment philosopher named Immanuel Kant said about the phrase know thyself. He said to know thyself is to know one's own heart and to understand the motives behind one's actions in order to harmonize one's will with one's duty. In other words, to align one's intentions, one's actions with one's purpose. And this is why knowledge of self is so important, because as Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. To go through life unconscious of who you truly are beyond the dream, beyond the facade we all have of freedom that comes from material wealth, which honestly would never truly satisfy us. Because if you don't truly know yourself, if you have no real knowledge of self, and you're unaware of your own soul, you will never be free. That's true power, my brothers and sisters, to be aware of not just our mind and body, but also our soul, to understand where we've come from and truly understand and connect with ourselves and with God. They say 95% of us is controlled by subconscious and unconscious programs. Then to know thyself is to become aware and conscious of ourselves, to understand the inner workings of our mind, our body, our soul on a psychological level, on a physiological level, on a spiritual level. You know, to understand our relationship with reality on a quantum level. I can go so deep on this topic. I love it because there's nothing more interesting than learning about ourselves. And as I always say, the more we understand ourselves, the more we're able to understand others, and the more we go closer with God, you know, the universe, the source of creation. And of course, for what purpose? I believe to free ourselves from ourselves and the systems that try to take advantage of our innocent ignorance. But all right, I know you're probably thinking, okay, how does one go about developing knowledge of self and start their journey of self-discovery and self-realization? Well, it all starts with self-awareness. It starts with examining ourselves as an observer. You know, we must disconnect from society's programs and paradigms of monkey see and monkey do. We need to develop critical thinking skills and think for ourselves, or we'll be just like everyone else in the system. You know, even if you believe you have some type of freedom because you may not be working for someone else, doesn't mean you're not a part of the system. You're just playing on a different level of the game than most people. You're still a slave, and until you develop true knowledge of self, you won't ever be free. Because everything you've obtained on the outside from developing yourself can all be taken away. You know, as a result of my own journey of self-discovery, what I've come to realize is that my mission in life is to empower others. As I said, if knowledge is power, then knowledge of self is self-empowerment. And self-empowerment is freedom. So here are 3 self-analysis questions to help you develop knowledge of self and hopefully start you on your journey of self-discovery and self-realization. 1, based on your current behavior, and this is going to require you to reflect and look at yourself, what do you believe are 3 personal values you exhibit based on your current behavior? 2, based on your experiences in life, what do you believe are some of your strengths and weaknesses? And 3, what inspires you and makes you excited, and what pains you and brings you fear? Now, if you want to go deeper on this journey, I crafted a downloadable PDF with more questions to help you self-reflect in the description below. And I also attached the link to a strength assessment test that will help you develop more self-awareness of your gifts. But remember, developing self-awareness is only the start of gaining knowledge of self. Self-discovery and self-realization is really a process. And on this journey, things may come up within you that may be difficult and challenging to navigate. So please don't shy away from investing into support like a therapist, because the best investment we can make is an investment into ourselves. I personally recommend using the platform BetterHelp to find a therapist that matches with you, which I also attached the link in the description down below, as well as scheduling a coaching call with yours truly. So remember, my brothers and sisters, it's one thing to develop and improve yourself, but it's a whole nother thing to discover yourself and realize your power. As always, tap in, my brothers and sisters. Peace.